I am Jacqueline Silas Butler, President of the Board of Directors for the Akron Roundtable. The Roundtable is brought to you over radio station WKSU 89.7 FM from the Quaker Station at the Quaker Inn on the campus of the University of Akron in downtown Akron, Ohio. The radio broadcast is underwritten by Cascade Audio. Today's program is generously sponsored by First Energy Foundation. Additionally, we would like to recognize the Akron Beacon Journal, Ohio.com, for being a legacy sponsor for the Akron Roundtable. Please mark your calendar now for our regularly scheduled roundtable, which will occur on the second Thursday this month of December, when the Akron Roundtable will present Marty Kress, the Assistant Vice President and Business Research Developer for The Ohio State University, who will present on the topic, Water, Our Most Precious Asset. To make a reservation for any of the Akron Roundtable luncheons or to purchase a subscription to our luncheon series, please visit our website at akronroundtable.org. We also invite you to join our group on Facebook. Today, the Akron Roundtable is pleased to present Jimmy Haslam, owner of the Cleveland Browns, who will present on the topic, leadership. I will now ask Jim Trout, President of Akron Fresh Market, Acme Fresh Market, to introduce our speaker. Please make certain that you have turned your cell phones to vibrate. You can also, or turn them off. And you can also send us tweets as well as post your pictures on Facebook. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to introduce today's Akron Roundtable speaker, Mr. Jimmy Haslam. Mr. Haslam's bio is at your table, and I must say, very impressive. So how do you introduce such an accomplished gentleman and the owner of our Cleveland Browns? Well, I thought I'd tell a quick story about the first time I met Jimmy. I was fortunate enough to meet him on a summer day at Cleveland Browns training camp. Meeting Jimmy, you're instantly energized with his passion for the Cleveland Browns. But I was also equally impressed with his interest in Acme and the grocery business and wanting to understand about our local supermarket chain. Taking time to meet my son Jeff, who was with me that day, to talk to him about his role in engaging Jeff in a conversation. Second time I communicated with Jimmy was after my grandchildren attended Cleveland Browns Family Day this summer at Infocision Stadium. What a great day that was for our city, and we packed that stadium, didn't we? I sent Jimmy a picture of my grandchildren Maddie and Landon holding hands with their Johnny Manziel and Jordan Cameron jerseys walking into the stadium. And within a couple hours, I received an email from Jimmy commenting and congratulating me on being a grandparent and how his 5 grandchildren were the light of his lives. To me, that says a lot about the person that I'm about to introduce. Of course, there's a very successful businessman, Mr. Haslam, but I wanted to share these couple of moments with you that I've had with Jimmy to give you a glimpse into the personal side of him. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big Akron welcome to a successful businessman, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and a very proud grandpa, Mr. Jimmy Haslam.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jim, and thanks for inviting us today. Really appreciate it. Great crowd here, great community, and my favorite part of Jim's introduction when he said, and this is what I've come to appreciate, as well as our entire some of our management team, which is down here, when you said our Cleveland Browns, because we really do view, even though our family paid a lot of money for that asset, we really do view it as a community asset, and we also, I think, understand the importance of the Browns to not just Cleveland, but to, as we say all the time, northeastern Ohio. And we really do consider it our Browns in the broader sense and take that seriously, and we'll come back and talk about football in a minute. Let me start by saying Akron is the home of a lot of great companies, and one of them, of course, is First Energy. And almost the very first deal we made when we came to Cleveland, I'm not even sure we'd officially closed on the team, was to give the naming rights of the stadium to First Energy. That's obviously a big deal for a professional team because the stadium really is an extension of your brand, right? And what name you put on there, I think says a lot about your brand and how you feel about things. And now 2 years later, and I know you all know the First Energy people as well or better than we do, we could not have selected a better partner. First of all, like all of us, they love the Browns, okay? And that's a great place to start. But secondly, they're quality people to deal with. It's a great brand. They do a great job. And I just wanted to say that here in the hometown of the Browns. And Tony Alexander and Chuck Jones have been great first-class people to work with. And we obviously look forward to them being our partner for years and years to come. I'll be honest with you, I'm always a little hesitant at an event like this to talk about leadership or business or certainly football, because when they say Jimmy Haslam's going to talk about leadership, it's presumed that you're an expert on it. And I would venture to say there's better leaders in the room, better business people in the room than I am. And so let me just start with that qualifier. But if it's all right, I thought what we would do today is talk a little bit about leadership, a little bit about business, a little bit about the Browns, but leave the majority of the time for Q&A. I don't know about you, but I'm a little ADD, and hearing somebody talk for an extended period of time is never one of my favorite things to go through. So we'll try to process through things that way. We'll start by talking about leadership, something that I think is really in short supply all across our country, unfortunately. And I think different people define leadership different ways, but I'll suggest 5 things today, and there's probably 10 other things that are as good as better, but 5 ways we look at leadership. I think the first, and I think the most important, and all 5 of them are important, is do the right thing all the time. And I would suggest to you that that comes in several different formats, okay? I think we all think, well, okay, do honest and ethical, and that's obviously right. A good friend of mine who's one of those rare people I don't think has ever done anything wrong says, being honest and being ethical, the way you really judge that about yourself is, what do you do when nobody's looking? What do you do when nobody knows? And that's a good gut check for all of us. But I think doing the right thing, beside being honest and ethical, also extends to setting a good example. I know at the Browns we press on all our players, but particularly our younger players, the importance of being on time for meetings. If you're supposed to stretch at a certain time, you stretch. If you're supposed to lift weights at a certain time, you stretch, because that sets a good example for the rest of the team. And at Pilot Flying J, I talked to our senior guys, and being a good leader means getting there early, staying late, because that sets the right example for the team. So I think first key part of leadership is doing the right thing. I think the second thing is setting the vision. And right now we're involved in 2 very distinctly different organizations, Pilot Flying J and the Browns, but they're actually a lot more alike than one might think initially. And in terms of setting the vision at Pilot Flying J, we really zero in on 4 areas. We zero in on financial targets. 5 years from now, we want our EBITDA to be this number, okay? Then we zero in on customer service metrics. We're here today, we want to continue to improve and be here. Then we zero in on our people and how are we doing succession planning? What's our talent level? What's our turnover at our stores, et cetera, et cetera. And then the 4th thing we talk a tremendous amount about is culture, okay? And at the Browns, it's really not that different. And we don't want people in November to say, wow, this is cool, the Browns are over 500 in contention, okay? We want it to be the opposite way, for that to be, and hopefully sooner rather than later, people saying, man, I can't believe the Browns aren't going to make the playoffs this year, okay? That's our mentality, is to be a consistent winner. You know, we want to build through the draft, okay? We want to use free agency selectively. We want to be a team that can run the ball and play good defense, has a top 15 quarterback. I could go on and on and on. But I think a leader's role is to, one, do the right thing all the time, but two, to set the vision. The third thing, in a lot of ways, this is one of the hardest ones, is to put the right people in the right place. Okay, let's say that again, to put the right people in the right place. And whether that's a Vice President of Operations for Pilot Flying J, whether that's the General Manager of our Belmont, Ohio store where I was today, whether it's our real estate person who had me go look at a site in Steubenville, Ohio today, or in football, whether it's getting the right general manager, the right head coach, the right president, the right quarterback, the right middle linebacker. That's, I think, a leader's job, is to get the right people in the right place and then to properly motivate, develop, and compensate. And those are all really important. Motivate, develop, and compensate, okay? Because I think that's what drives people. Some people are driven more by a pat on the back, some people are driven more financially. But I think all of us want to be paid attention to by our leaders. Whenever I see somebody in football, it's pretty well known what everybody makes, but in our company, Pilot Flying J, we now have over 24,000 people. If I feel like it's somebody that's doing a superb job or is working exceptionally hard, who goes above and beyond to take care of the customer and or their team member, the first thing I ask is, what are you making? I was at Belmont, Ohio today. Our GM is doing just a superb job. Very busy travel center, hard to run. If you know where Belmont is, it's right in the middle of where all the energy explosions happen in the Utica. Lady's name is Missy. She's worked for us for quite some time. And after about 5 minutes, I go, Missy, what do you make? And of course, she laughingly said, Jimmy, not enough. And I said, I agree with you, Missy. Let's talk about what you make. But I think it's important that you do take care of your people, particularly your high performers. The fourth thing I would say for a leader, and I'm pretty confident we have this at the Browns now, I think it's really important for your leader to be even-keeled, okay? Whether you're in business, you're coaching a team, you're raising a family, no matter what you do, there's good days and bad days, right? There's good hours and bad hours, and you know, things go up and down. I could recant my morning, and there were some really good things that happened, or some things that I'll just say were less than good that happened, okay? But I think it's important in leadership to keep an even keel. I tell Mike Patton all the time, I say, Pat, I'm watching you on the sidelines during the game, and I said, I don't have a clue what you're thinking. I don't know, you know. And he says, well, trust me, I'm dying inside. But he does a great job. And let's face it, the players look to whom during the game? You know, things go against you on the road, you get a bad break, you get a turnover, things don't start the way you planned. They're going to look to see how the coaches, particularly the head coach, respond. And I think Mike does a great job of he really in the locker room is very little different. The message is a little different, but in terms of demeanor, win or lose. And I think that's a real strength. And as you all know, we went through a really tough situation at Pilot Flying J a couple of years ago. About to wrap that up right now, and I noticed everybody in the company was looking at me, from our airplane pilots to people who worked in the store to maintenance people in our stores to truck drivers were all looking at me like, how's he handling this? How's he look? How's he feel about things? And I think particularly during crisis it's important to be even-keeled, but I think really good leaders are even-keeled. The fifth thing is, and I don't know if you'll chuckle at this or not, I think it's really important for leaders to work hard and to like what they do. A good friend of mine who served as a mentor of mine, he's about 75 or 80 years old, says all the time, the luckiest people in the world, and listen to this, the luckiest people in the world are those people who like going to work, meaning you like what you do occupationally, and like coming home, meaning you like your spouse. And if you think about that, and I was just like you all, I kind of chuckled at that, but it's one of those things when you think about it over a period of time, if you are blessed to have both of those situations, then you truly are fortunate. I won't deal with the spouse situation right now. I do think the people that are, quote, successful in life, and I don't just mean financially or winning games. You could be a great school teacher. You could be a great nonprofit worker. Whatever you're doing, do like their jobs and do work hard. When I was little, my dad used to say, Jimmy, if you'll swing 20 times and the other guy only swings 10, even if you're just an okay hitter, you probably have a better chance of getting more hits. And I think that resonates well. And if you'll put the time in, I think you'll have a better chance of being successful. What do they say? The harder the work you work, the luckier you get. And I think there is something to that. So in terms of leadership, and like I said at the outset, I think there's probably a lot of other people in the room who have great ideas, but I would suggest those 5 things. 1, do the right thing all the time. 2, set the vision. 3, put the right people in the right place. 4, keep an even keel. It's like our season. We're not as good as we looked against Cincinnati, and we're not as bad as we looked against the Texans. And I think you got to keep that in perspective. Things are never quite as good or as bad as they seem. And in leadership, it's important to keep that even keel. And the 5th thing is you have to work hard, and it's really helpful if you like what you do. All right, let me change gears a second and talk a little bit about business, because I'm assuming there's a reasonable amount of business people in this room. First of all, I'll say in our country, one of the great strengths of our country is the free enterprise system, and the opportunity to make a living, to own your business, to work for somebody in a business, create jobs is just an awesome opportunity, and I know we feel fortunate every day. I actually think the U.S. economy is in a little bit better shape than it has been. Interest rates, as everybody knows, whether you've refinanced your home mortgage or done some refinancing or financing your business, are exceptionally low, and although they might trend up, are going to be by historical rates, I think, low for a long time. I think the big driver, and you all see it here where you're located in Akron, is what's going on in the energy world in the United States. There's a gentleman named George Webster from Houston who actually developed what is known as fracking. And fracking has kind of a negative connotation. I was listening to the next speaker is going to talk about the preciousness of water, and I was thinking, I wonder how he would feel about, or he or she would feel about fracking. But what is going on in the energy world in the United States is, I would suggest to you, is the biggest thing that's happened in the United States and maybe since the Industrial Revolution. And I say that because the power in the world has now swung back to the United States. And it's not in a part of the world where, I don't know any other word to say it, that people don't like us very much. And what is being happening here in Ohio, what's happening in Pennsylvania across the state line, what's happening particularly in Texas, North Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, Oklahoma, is substantial in terms of, 1, wealth creation here in our country, not somewhere else, 2, job creation, and that job creation will continue. I know BP is building a $2 billion chemical plant right outside of Pittsburgh right now, and the reason they're doing it is cheap source of natural gas. And I think our country, knock on wood, is going to be blessed with cheap energy for a long time, and I think that's going to create a substantial amount of jobs. And I would suggest that all of us right now probably have 10 or 15 extra dollars a week to spend because of the price of gasoline. And I got to believe that all of that is good for the United States. And if our government could get its act together and pass some tax reform policy where businesses were incented to spend capital dollars, I think we'd be better off, and a tax policy that made sense. But I do think economically, I'm not suggesting we're heading for any boom, but I think the United States is on sound economic ground. And probably in today's world, maybe the best economy, it's by far the biggest, and I think the best to work in, but the best economy right now going in the world. Lastly, talk about the Browns, and I've said this a lot of times. First of all, it's a real privilege to be part of the Cleveland Browns, and I can't say it any more seriously than that. It's not only a ton of fun, it's an honor. And I'll quickly say this, and I think there's press here, but we'll say it anyway. There's no way you have any idea what you're getting into when you buy a pro football team. It's just not. It's overwhelming. Part of that's because of the base of football support here in northeastern Ohio, but it's overwhelming. Everything you say comes back to you. I remember there was a short period of time when I stepped down as CEO of Pilot Flying J and decided maybe that didn't make sense for a couple of reasons and stepped back in, and I said I'm returning to my first love, and I think half the people in this part of the state blasted me, so it's now a tie, by the way. there's no way you can be prepared for it, and it's overwhelming. And my friends ask me, what's it like to be an NFL owner? What's been your biggest surprise? And I say this, it's a way bigger deal than even you would think. And they would say, well, you had to know it's a big deal, but it's an even bigger deal. It's just the NFL, and I happen to think it's very good, is the biggest thing going. And if you look at TV ratings or just attention, all the attention the NFL gets, it's unbelievable. But there is a learning curve. I grew up in a family business, but I'm not like Art Rooney with the Steelers. I didn't grow up, my family business wasn't football. We've always been around sports, but it's different. So there's a learning curve, but I think the same principles for running a good business or a good nonprofit or a good school apply to an NFL team. And I think we're putting those in place. I think we have a really good group of people now. Alex Shiner, our president, is down here. Alex runs the business side. Sash Brown handles the cap for us. And Ray Farmer, of course, is a GM, and I prefer, everybody knows Mike Pettin, our head coach. I think we have a good team in place. They're aggressive, they're smart, they work hard, and we all have really two goals. The first is to win games, and the second is to give our fans great experience. And as I remind everybody, the best way to give our fans great experience is what? Win, right? So that makes it all. Brent Stelliger runs sales forces down here, and the most excited I've seen him is, one, when we drafted Manziel, and two, just anytime we get a big win like we did at Cincinnati a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, tonight. So we all understand the importance of winning. But I do think we're putting a good fundamental group in place. The Browns, everybody forgets, you all don't, are an expansion team. And I think when you buy an NFL team, there is work to do, and there certainly was and is work to do, but I think we're directionally correct. And we do want to have a consistent winner up here that the people in this community can be proud of, can rally around. We feel responsible to do that. I think we've got a good blueprint in place. We just got to execute it. There's no excuse for not winning the NFL if you don't. It's the owner and top management standpoint, because it really is a even playing field the way it's set up. As one of the owners told me, he said, Jimmy, this is a socialistic business owned by a bunch of capitalists, and that's actually a good way to say it. It's a level playing field, and you can witness Green Bay, which is a town of, I think, 140,000, and they certainly won their share of NFL titles. So we're committed to putting the right people in the right place and winning consistently. Hopefully we'll finish the year strong, a little banged up with injuries and tougher schedule in the back half than the first half, but we're all optimistic, and I promise you we are working hard and we're taking very seriously, because we all want to win, and we know how badly all you all want to win, and that's what this area deserves. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions that anybody might have.
If you have any questions, thank you. If you have any questions, please write them on your cards or on your table, and someone will pick up the cards and they will be presented for you.
Okay, we're going to start off with a pure football question here. In your remarks, you commented about the exemplary performance of the team against the Bengals and something less than that against the Texans. And what is your theory as to why the performance of the current Browns seems to be so bipolar?
Well, thanks for starting with an easy one. I mean, here's the real answer. We don't know, right? If we knew, you wouldn't let it happen. So, you're motivating young people to play hard over 16 Sundays, and the NFL season is a grind. And every NFL team is good. They're all good. Whether they're 14-2 or 2-14, they're all made up of professionals. And I think we played really well against the Bengals, and I think the Texans played really well against us, and we didn't play as well against them. So I don't think there is any, unfortunately, magic answer.
Here's a leadership question, since that was the topic of your remarks here, with a tough twist to it here. There's been a lot of coverage lately with respect to the criminal behavior of some NFL players. What is the proper role of a team owner and upper management when a player on their team is involved in this type of situation?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, and something we take really seriously. Let me say this. If you take the profile of the average NFL player, meaning age, okay, and stack them against the general population, and I'm not at all apologizing for anything any player's done. they perform better than the general population. And I think it's important to understand that, okay? I think it's really important to understand that. And you won't see that or read that because you don't want to read about Adrian Peterson or Greg Hardy or whomever it might be. But I think on the whole, NFL players are extremely well behaved. I'll probably jinx us, but we've got 53 players on our regular team, 10 on the practice squad, so that's 63 players. They range in age from 21 to, I think, 36, okay? So they're still young people, and they're great guys. They really are. They are a good group of people. They're polite, they're nice, they work hard, they behave well. But I think it starts with, we've got to draft the right kind of players. And one of the things that we're working hard on is not to just know what a cornerback or a running back or an offensive guard can do physically, but what's their background, what's their makeup, what type of people they are. I think you've got to do that, number one. Then I think you've got to continually work with them. I mean, we have a team psychologist, we've got team docs, and we've got people in charge of player development, and it's our job to, these players come from all types of different backgrounds. Some of them are great backgrounds, and some of them, you just shake your head and go, holy smokes, I don't know how the guy shows up for work every day, okay? So, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with, that's what you have to work with, and I think we can do a good job there, but we own, one, who we select, and then two, developing them. Now, is it going to be perfect? Are people going to get in trouble? Yes, they are. That's going to happen, just like it does with general population. And then our job is to deal with them, hopefully correct the situation, and if not, hold them accountable. Maybe they're not with their team anymore. But we have a high responsibility for getting the right kind of people and then working with them to make sure they lead good lives.
A member of our audience poses this question that'll remind you that you're in Akron, Ohio. What will it take to get the Browns training camp here to the University of Akron?
Let me say this, all of us felt great about that Saturday morning that we came down here. First of all, the university did a great job, the facilities were good, the crowd turnout was outstanding. It literally felt like going into a Browns game that day. So I think you're off to a good start. We have not made a decision whether we're going to leave Berea or not. There are a lot of communities that would welcome the Browns, which we're flattered with and humbled by. And I can assure you Akron will get a good look, and you got off to a good start by what you did in August here.
A member of our audience poses this question. During your remarks, you made reference to your recent difficult time. How did you stay encouraged and encourage your employees?
Well, I mean, I've said this publicly and I'll say it again, it's the hardest thing we've ever gone through. I know it's the hardest thing I've ever personally gone through because, first of all, it's embarrassing. I mean, our pilot value number one is do the right thing all the time, and unfortunately some of our people did not do so and did not do so for an extended period of time. And I take total responsibility for that, so it's very embarrassing. But I think what you've got to do is you got to react. You got to react quickly, and we got quickly to the facts. And first thing we did is we paid every trucking company back that we owed any money to, and if there's any doubt, we went out our way to pay them more. And I think there were several hundred trucking companies were affected, and I think the number now is down to 7 or 8, and I'm confident we'll work through those in the not too distant future. The second thing is you've got to get rid of the people who've made bad decisions and replace them with people who make good decisions. We've done that. And the third thing is you've got to put the right systems and processes in place where this type of thing can never happen again, and I think we've done that. But it was a very difficult time. It definitely, you hear all the time, you find out about yourselves and your people in difficult times. When the wind's at your back and you're winning, everybody looks good. But I got our leadership group on the phone the night that happened. I said, we're going to find out a lot about ourselves as leaders and people over the next couple of years. And there were people that stood out and people who didn't stand out. But very tough, very difficult process. Learned a lot through it. Would not wish it on anyone.
We always get thoughtful questions from our audience, and here's one of them. With recent focus on player safety and long-term health effects from the game, what steps are owners taking to improve the quality of care players are receiving post-career?
Yeah, great question. Let me start by saying, of course, the Browns were with Cleveland Clinic forever and are now with University Hospital. It starts out by our players get great care every day. I don't know if you know this, but they eat either 2 or 3 meals a day at Berea, and it's great food. When I'm here, I will eat And if I don't have a dinner engagement, I'll eat all 3 meals there. It is really good food, okay? And we're working with our players on things like sleep. We're working with them on discipline. We're working with them on conditioning. A simple thing like hydration, how much water, how much fluid you drink, can determine whether you pull a hamstring or a groin muscle. And so we're constantly not just working with them, but measuring, monitoring, and keeping score to do everything they can from a preventive standpoint. And we take it really seriously. I think the NFL has made huge strides in player safety. I know there's some owners that feel it has gone too far. I don't know that I know enough about basic football operations to comment on that, but I think the NFL has made huge strides in making that situation better. And the core group of players you have, you get to know them and you care about them. And we want to take care of our players in every possible way. It might be just helping them mature. It might be taking care of them physically. It might be helping them with their financials. But we feel a responsibility to take care of these players. And I think the NFL is headed in the right direction there.
We have a couple questions about your sibling. Do you think your brother will be the next chair of the Republican Governors Association, or might he join other winning governors in a run for the presidency?
Well, if you know my brother, he's the most modest politician ever, okay? And he just has zero ego, very self-effacing, etc. And he's won 4 races, 2 for mayor of Knoxville and 2 for governor of Tennessee. His first race for mayor and his first race for governor were both tough races. Each of his second race for mayor and second race for governor he won really, really easily, but he's never run a negative ad in his life, okay? Think about that. He's never run a negative ad in his life, and there were times in both his races where a lot of people, including yours truly, were encouraging him to do so, okay? But he held steadfast to his beliefs, and I think we all have a tremendous respect for him. I don't know if you can run for president of the United States, unfortunately, and do that, so never say never. I don't think Bill will run for president. It is rumored that he's going to be the next head of the Republican Governors Association, but I don't know if that's official yet, but it's rumored that he will be, so.
Picking up on your theme on leadership, a member of our audience asked this question. Who is the best leader on the football team?
Well, that's a great question. I think we have several good leaders. As I said, we're going to build selectively through free agency, and when we do, we're obviously going to look for talent. We're also going to look for people who love football and are good leaders. And certainly the 2 high-profile free agents we picked up, Carlos Stansby and Dante Whitner. Whitner, of course, is from this part of the world, are great leaders. And they're different kind of leaders. Whitner's a fiery, tough, Carlos more soft-spoken, but they're both really good leaders. And I think that leadership shows up not only in how you talk, but in your actions. And like Carlos has a knee injury, and I was talking to the trainer on Monday, Joe Sheehan, and I said, what do you think? And he said, he will be back as soon as it's humanly possible. In other words, he'll do everything to rehab, mentally, physically, etc., to get back. And I think that's a good example of leadership there. You know, Joe Thomas is perennial All-Pro, great player. Joe's a quieter man, but just the example he sets every day does a great job of leadership. And you have quiet guys. Hawkins, who we picked up from Cincinnati, doesn't say much at all, okay, but he's a great leader. So we're blessed to have good leaders. I think Joe Bitonio and Kirksey coming up are good leaders, and obviously a quarterback has to be a good leader too. So we're continuing to develop these people, and when we draft people, we want to get people who are good leaders, because you face a lot of adversity during the football season. You need people to stand up there and hang in there tough. And I don't know that we would have come back against the Steelers and against the Titans. Unfortunately, lost the Steelers the first time, came back to beat the Titans in the largest comeback in road history in the NFL. If you don't have strong leadership who keeps everybody calm, but at the same time says, guys, this is not acceptable. So we're continually looking for good leaders.
We have time for just a couple more questions. We've had a great many from the audience, and I want to thank the audience for that. Do you feel the rules regarding illegal hits causing concussion should be changed? For an example, Cameron out 4 weeks now, and the defensive back gets a minor fine.
You know, those are tough calls, and that play example, I mean, there's some hits that are blatant, and everybody in the room would agree it was. And that's a fine line. I think the NFL needs to continue to look to take care of the players, terms of how much players are fined and aren't fined. I think that's maybe a different equation, but I think the NFL's got to continue to look to take really good care of the players because, you know, they're the source of the game. And at the same time, when an individual signs up to play football, I think they know what they're getting into, but we need to do everything we can to take care of the players.
We have time for 2 more questions. This member of the audience asks this question: who inspired your leadership style?
You know, I think you learn from a lot of people. My dad's a great leader, always fired up, always positive. He said something to me when I remember I was about 10 or 11 years old. We'd go play pickup basketball on the weekend at a local high school, and it was his friends and my friends. Maybe I was 12 or 13, so it was a lot of fun and kind of interesting dynamic. And he was talking to me about leadership, and I said, well, give me an example of how you're a good leader. And he said, well, you know, you get up there for pickup basketball and everybody's kind of kicking the ball around and shooting and joking around. He said, somebody's got to say, all right, let's pick teams. Here's how we're going to play. We're going to play to 10. You got to win by 2, etc. And he was that kind of guy. So I saw that early on. We have an outstanding board of directors at Pilot Flying J. Fred Smith, who runs FedEx, Lee Scott, who ran Walmart, Brad Martin, who used to run Saks Fifth Avenue. They're all great leadership. I mean, I was on the phone with Brad for 30 minutes this morning talking about a couple items. So I think you learn from people like that. I think we have good leaders at the Browns. So I think if you're a serious learner, you never quit, okay? If you're a serious learner, you're always learning, and that certainly goes for leadership. Alex Shiner sitting down here is our president, he's a great leader. I learn from him all the time about leadership. So I think we're always committed to learning more about leadership, and I would suggest we all need to be.
We have time for one more question. This is the question we're not going to ask you to answer. I'm in the back, and it's been hard to hear you. Can I have free tickets? I'll take Cavs tickets, too, if that works best. Let's put their name, phone number, and email address. Okay. Last question is this. For the last 50 years, Cleveland's professional sports teams have been plagued by a curse that has denied them even a single championship. The curse is so compelling that it's inspired native son LeBron James, who could live and play anywhere, to return here for the avowed purpose of bringing Cleveland a championship. So the question is, when will the curse be broken, and which team will break it? The Indians, the Cavaliers, or the Cleveland Browns?
Now, you'll take this one. Let me say this. The Red Sox had that curse right forever, and they broke it, and it's a really successful organization. And I see no reason, I can't speak for the other organizations. We think the world of Paul Dolan and Dan Gilbert. Dan, obviously, I don't think I've ever been as excited for an individual or for a team as when LeBron came back. I mean, I went last night, and they played a great game, barely lost to the Spurs, but it's just great for this community. And do I think they'll produce a winner? Yes. Do I think the Dolans have done with the economics of baseball, they've done a tremendous job. Do I think they can produce a winner? Yes. I'm solely focused on one organization that still has a long way to go, but understands the importance of producing a winner, and we're going to do everything we can to bring a championship to Northeastern Ohio.
Mr. Haslam, thank you for being with us today. You know, this has been a very busy day for you, so we're glad your plane got you here safely. On behalf of the Board of Directors for the Akron Roundtable, we would like to present to you the Templated Sun by local artist and craftsman Don Drum, that's made especially for the Akron Roundtable. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Great, thanks, Jackie. And thanks again, not only for coming, but thanks for your support of the Browns, and go Browns.